guys, it's Alexa here. I'm really excited to finally be bringing you a video that tells you a little bit more about me. All my previous videos obviously have been chronicling other people and other people's stories, but I think it would be helpful to give you guys a little bit of backstory on me and my story. So I guess I'll start with 16. I'm from Connecticut, Eastern Connecticut, a town called Mansfield, which is basically in the middle of nowhere. And I started blogging when I was 12 years old. Wasn't really anything. I remember having my first 7 followers and I was so impressed with myself. And then it was kind of over the past year that I started, I guess, going up. I was getting more opportunities. I had a few people reach out to me about social media, doing social media for them, and that's how I got into that. And then I started making money and I started traveling a lot more and just getting a lot more, I guess, recognition, which was really amazing. I go to online school right now, which I transferred to August of last year, and it was probably one of the best decisions I could have ever made. I never fit in school. I never really had a lot of friends, and I just really wasn't enjoying high school. What I really wanted to talk about today was tips for making it in fashion, and a lot of people always ask me that, and they're always asking me, how do I get invited to Fashion Week? How do I get to travel? How do I get people to pay for my travel? And it's not an easy thing. You know, I've only been blogging for a little bit over 2 years, well, actually close to 3 years now, and I'm nowhere near where I would want to be in 10 years or even 5 years. My first tip is never be afraid to email people. I have spent hours upon hours upon hours emailing basically hundreds of thousands of people, and that sounds like an insane like a ton, and you probably think I'm lying, but I'm really not. You know, when people ask me, how did I get invited to Fashion Week? Well, when I was 14, I remember I was really sick and I had the flu, but Fashion Week was coming up. Everybody goes to Fashion Week, and how could I not go to Fashion Week? If I want to be a blogger, all these famous bloggers are going to Fashion Week, so obviously I have to find a way there. At that point, I wasn't traveling a lot. I wasn't really going to New York a lot, so it was definitely something new. And all I did was I Googled PR contact for, I think the first show that I reached out to was BCBG. I got the email of the woman from BCBG, and I emailed her. I told her my story, that I really wanted to go to Fashion Week. And she emailed me back the next day and was like, we'd love to have you. Thank you so much for emailing me. And that was one of the first shows that I got invited to. So now I have a reputation, obviously, with them, and I have a contact. So every season I email them, and they know who I am. And, you know, I automatically get the tickets. And no, you do not have to pay for tickets. Never pay for tickets if anybody ever asks you. Don't ever compare yourself to other people. You know, all through high school, I was always comparing myself to other people. I would compare myself to the girls who had boyfriends, and I never had a boyfriend. I would compare myself to the girls who were popular, to the girls who weren't popular. How did that benefit me? It would not benefit me at all. And it's the same thing in the fashion industry. I mean, I haven't been doing this for that long. I've had people call me fat. I've had people call me too skinny. I've had people say I'm too short, I'm too tall. If you can't be strong in this industry, it's not you're not going to cut it. I mean, being able to not compare yourself to other people will put you at such a higher level than those people, because there's always going to be people who you think are prettier than you, or who you think are smarter than you. You can't let other people get in the way just because you are insecure about yourself. And I mean, I have days all the time when I feel bad about myself, you know, or I just feel like it's not a good day, or something's gone wrong or whatnot. And that's completely normal. And especially when you have your own business, that's more than normal, you know, because not everything is always going to go your way. Whether you're a fashion blogger, a model, you know, you're in fitness, you're a nurse or a doctor, something's always going to go wrong. And the really important thing is to just give yourself a lot of recognition for what you've done so far. Always ask me, like, wow, you must have had parents that really pushed you forward. Like, you probably had a really good support system. And I'm like, no, it was not that way at all. I don't have millions of dollars to spend on designer clothing. And my parents, honestly, were not into this whole fashion thing. When I first started, obviously, it was just the blog, and I wasn't having to travel. I wasn't asking, you know, having people ask me asked me to do work for them that was actually paid. And I remember the first opportunity that I had, actually, I brought to my mom, and my mom was so against the idea, and it was honestly the smallest thing when I was 14, but my mom was really against it, and I remember just sitting in my room and crying and telling my dad, why doesn't she want me to do this? Like, why don't you guys trust me? Why don't you have any faith in me? You know what I mean? I was like, I'm willing to pay for everything that this was, that this would cost, but I don't understand why my mom is not being supportive of this. And I mean, my dad kind of talked to her a bit, and he really wasn't too thrilled with the idea either. I mean, they knew that I was blogging, but they just weren't into the whole traveling thing. They weren't into any of it. And so I just went off. I found a ride to the train station. I got to New York. I got to the interview that I had. Probably a lot of young adults, who are my age, your parents are your biggest obstacle. If you don't push through your parents, you're never going to end up where you want to end up. But I definitely think that if you really have a passion and a love and a goal, don't let anybody get in your way. I definitely have had times where I've questioned whether this was the right place for me to be in. And especially coming from such a small town, I'm not used to, I guess, mean people. I'm not used to this big industry, where people are all kind of fighting for one thing, which I completely disagree with, because I think there's enough room for everybody. But yeah, I try to ignore people when they're really negative, because they're really going to get you down. When I started blogging, there weren't that many blogs out there, so I guess I could say that I got kind of lucky. But right now, there are so many blogs out there. Everybody wants to be the next big thing. There are tons and tons and tons of people who are looking to probably do the exact same thing you're doing. And that doesn't mean I would say not to do it, but I think it really just means have a goal plan, like a game plan. You really need to figure out how to separate yourself and make yourself different from other people. I've had so many people that will come up, or business opportunities, and be like, so tell me what makes you different from other people. And that's the number one thing that I think I've struggled with, is finding out what makes me different from everybody else. And it's like, what makes you different, but explaining that to somebody maybe in like 10 words is a really difficult thing. Have a really clear message and put that on your website or your Tumblr, your Pinterest, your Instagram, whatever you're trying to do. Just make sure that you have fun doing it. Make sure that you love what you do. And don't let anybody ever get in your way. Even for me, transferring to online school was one of the biggest decisions of my life, I think, at that time, because I switched out of school, and it was such a scary thing, and I was leaving my friends behind. Like, was I going to have any friends? Who was I going to meet? All these different things. And I finally really become happy with myself, and going through high school, I was so insecure, and I was never happy with myself, and I used to be so angry at myself a lot of the time. I loved blogging, but I really, really hated myself. Like, why couldn't I have just been normal? Why couldn't I have just gone and become a doctor or a nurse, even though my grades were so bad in high school? You know what I mean? And that was never going to be an option for me, but why wasn't that something that I could have done? And now I finally feel like I can look at myself and be like, I'm really proud of where you are. And I love to bring you some extra tips and stuff, things that I've learned that you might be able to be really interested by. So thank you guys so much for watching. Mwah!